NEC 314.28b addresses conductors in boxes. It states that conductors entering boxes or fittings must be protected from abrasion and other physical damage. Any conductor entering a box or fitting where there are conductors of any other system or of any circuit to the same system operating at a higher voltage must be protected from contact with those conductors. The protection must be by approved means. NEC 310.15b2 concerns the identification of equipment grounding conductors. Equipment grounding conductors must be identified and connected in accordance with A, B, or C. Regarding color coding, equipment grounding conductors are permitted to be identified by one of the following color coding methods. Firstly, insulated conductors having a continuous green color or a continuous green color with yellow stripes. Secondly, bare or covered conductors having a continuous green color or a continuous green color with yellow stripes. And thirdly, insulated or bare conductors having a green or green with yellow stripes color applied as a spiral wrap or striping, except as provided in 250.119 for conductors larger than AWG6. NEC 310.15b4 covers connections to the grounding electrode conductor. The equipment grounding conductor must be connected to the grounding electrode conductor where these conductors are accessible within the same area as required by 250.104e. Based on these code references, there's no specific requirement to mark neutral and ground conductors when they are in an accessible box. However, if the neutral and ground conductors are not color-coded, it's recommended to mark them with tape or other approved means to ensure they are not mistaken for other conductors. Additionally, the equipment grounding conductor must be connected to the grounding electrode conductor where these conductors are accessible within the same area. Let's delve deeper into these National Electrical Code (NEC) requirements to ensure clarity and proper application in electrical installations. Starting with NEC 314.28b, the primary focus is on protecting conductors within boxes and fittings. This isn't just about identification, but about preventing physical damage and ensuring safety. The requirement to protect conductors from abrasion is crucial because damaged insulation can lead to short circuits, ground faults, and potentially electrical fires. Approved means of protection can include using bushings, proper strain relief connectors, and ensuring that the box itself doesn't have sharp edges that could damage the conductors. The section also addresses scenarios where conductors from different systems or voltage levels are present in the same box. This is a critical safety consideration because contact between conductors of different systems or voltage levels can be hazardous. The code mandates protection to prevent such contact, which can be achieved through barriers, insulation, or separation within the box. Moving on to NEC 310.15b2, the focus shifts to the identification of equipment grounding conductors. This is a vital aspect of electrical safety, as it ensures that grounding conductors are easily recognizable and properly connected. The code provides specific color coding methods for equipment grounding conductors. Firstly, insulated conductors must have a continuous green color or a continuous green color with yellow stripes. This is the most common method for identifying insulated equipment grounding conductors. Secondly, bare or covered conductors can also be identified by a continuous green color or a continuous green color with yellow stripes. This is often seen in situations where the grounding conductor is run exposed, such as in conduit or cable trays. Thirdly, for insulated or bare conductors, a green or green with yellow striped color can be applied as a spiral wrap or striping. However, there's an exception for conductors larger than AWG6 as provided in 250.119a. This exception recognizes that it may not always be practical to color code larger conductors in the same manner as smaller ones. Now let's consider NEC 310.15b4, which deals with connections to the grounding electrode conductor. This section emphasizes the importance of connecting the equipment grounding conductor to the grounding electrode conductor. This connection must occur where these conductors are accessible within the same area as required by 250.104e. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that a low impedance path to ground is established, which is essential for clearing ground faults and protecting against electrical shock. In summary, while the NEC doesn't explicitly require marking neutral and ground conductors in accessible boxes if they are already color-coded according to code, best practice dictates that unmarked conductors should be identified. This is particularly important in situations where multiple conductors are present in the box, as it reduces the risk of errors during maintenance or troubleshooting. Acceptable marking methods include using color-coded tape or labels that clearly indicate the function of the conductor. In the context of NEC 314.28b, the protection of conductors within junction boxes also extends to ensuring that the box is appropriately sized for the number and size of conductors it contains. Overcrowding a junction box can lead to overheating, insulation damage, and difficulty in making proper connections. The NEC provides guidelines for box fill calculations to prevent such issues. When dealing with equipment grounding conductors, as outlined in NEC 310.15b2, it's crucial to ensure that the color coding is consistent throughout the electrical system. Mixing different color coding schemes can create confusion and increase the risk of errors. Additionally, it's important to verify that the grounding conductors are properly sized to handle the potential fault current. Undersized grounding conductors can overheat and fail during a fault, compromising safety. Regarding NEC 310.15b4, the connection between the equipment grounding conductor and the grounding electrode conductor must be made in a manner that ensures a reliable and permanent connection. This can be achieved through the use of approved connectors or by directly bonding the conductors together. The connection should also be accessible for inspection and maintenance. Now, let's consider some practical examples to illustrate these concepts. Imagine a scenario where you're working on an electrical panel that contains conductors for multiple circuits. In this case, it's essential to protect the conductors from abrasion and physical damage as they enter the panel. You would use appropriate strain relief connectors to secure the cables and prevent them from being pulled or twisted. You would also ensure that the panel has smooth edges to avoid damaging the insulation. Next, suppose you're installing a new branch circuit and need to identify the equipment grounding conductor. You would use a green or green with yellow striped insulated conductor for this purpose. This would clearly indicate that the conductor is intended for grounding and not for carrying current under normal conditions. Finally, imagine you're connecting an equipment grounding conductor to the grounding electrode conductor at a service entrance. You would use an approved connector to ensure a secure and reliable connection. You would also verify that the connection is accessible for inspection and maintenance. In addition to the specific requirements outlined in the NEC, it's important to follow general best practices for electrical safety. This includes de-energizing circuits before working on them, using appropriate personal protective equipment, and verifying that all connections are properly made and tightened. It's also crucial to stay up to date on the latest changes to the NEC and other relevant standards. The electrical code is constantly evolving to address new technologies and safety concerns, so it's important to stay informed. Consider the scenario of extending an existing circuit. When extending a circuit, all conductors, including the neutral and ground, must be extended as well. The NEC requires that the grounding conductor be connected to any metallic boxes or enclosures to ensure they are properly grounded. The size of the grounding conductor must be appropriate for the circuit's overcurrent protection device. Furthermore, when working in damp or wet locations, additional precautions are necessary. Ground fault circuit interrupters (GFCIs) are required in these areas to protect against electrical shock. All wiring and connections must be suitable for wet locations, and any metallic components must be corrosion resistant. In industrial settings, the requirements for conductor identification and protection can be even more stringent. For example, in hazardous locations, such as those containing flammable gases or vapors, special wiring methods and equipment are required to prevent explosions. The NEC provides detailed guidance on these requirements. It's also worth mentioning that local jurisdictions may have additional requirements beyond those specified in the NEC. It's important to check with the local electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. The information provided here is intended for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer before performing any electrical work. Remember, electrical safety is paramount. By following the requirements of the NEC and best practices, you can help prevent electrical accidents and ensure the safety of yourself and others. The NEC requirements for marking conductors in junction boxes and for grounding in general are designed to minimize the risk of electrical shock and fire. Proper grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source, allowing the overcurrent protection device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, to quickly interrupt the circuit. This helps to prevent dangerous voltages from appearing on metal equipment and enclosures. The grounding electrode system, which includes the grounding electrode conductor and the grounding electrode, such as a ground rod or water pipe, provides a connection to earth. This helps to stabilize the voltage of the electrical system and provides a reference point for grounding. The equipment grounding conductor, which runs with the circuit conductors, provides a path for fault current to return to the source from metal equipment and enclosures. It is connected to the grounding electrode system at the service entrance. In addition to the grounding requirements, the NEC also includes requirements for overcurrent protection. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect against overloads and short circuits. They must be properly sized for the circuit they are protecting and must be installed in an accessible location. The NEC also includes requirements for wiring methods. Wiring methods refer to the way in which conductors are installed and protected. Common wiring methods include conduit, cable, and open wiring. Each wiring method has its own set of requirements for installation and support. It is important to choose the appropriate wiring method for the application and to follow the NEC requirements for installation. The NEC also includes requirements for electrical equipment. Electrical equipment must be listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory such as Underwriters Laboratories UL. This ensures that the equipment has been tested and meets safety standards. Electrical equipment must also be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions and the NEC requirements. Finally, the NEC includes requirements for special occupancies. Special occupancies are locations that have unique electrical hazards, such as hospitals, schools, and hazardous locations. The NEC provides additional requirements for these occupancies to address the specific hazards. In conclusion, the NEC is a comprehensive set of standards for electrical safety. By following the requirements of the NEC, you can help prevent electrical accidents and ensure the safety of yourself and others. In addition to marking and identifying conductors, maintaining clear and accurate electrical documentation is crucial for safety and troubleshooting. This includes updated panel schedules, wiring diagrams, and circuit directories. These documents should be readily accessible to qualified personnel and updated whenever changes are made to the electrical system. Regularly inspect electrical systems for any signs of damage, deterioration, or overheating. Look for things like cracked or frayed wires, loose connections, and discolored or deformed components. Address any issues promptly to prevent them from escalating into more serious problems. Conduct regular testing of ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, and arc fault circuit interrupters, FCIs, to ensure they are functioning properly. These devices are designed to protect against electrical shock and fire, and they must be tested periodically to verify their effectiveness. Encourage ongoing training for electrical personnel to keep them up to date on the latest codes, standards, and best practices. This training should cover topics such as conductor identification, grounding, overcurrent protection, and safe work practices. By implementing these additional measures, you can further enhance electrical safety and reduce the risk of accidents. Remember, electrical safety is a shared responsibility, and everyone should be aware of the potential hazards and take steps to mitigate them.